I probably never wanted to be a leader. Let me just clarify that. What I wanted to do was do good work. Being a leader is not a very easy job in a space like data and data science and AI, because the resources are sharp, intelligent, and people have their own desires, intents, and very smart people get impatient fast, and then you have to take care of them at every point in time. I think obsolescence is the only constant in this marketplace, right? We need to adapt and change to the changing times and figure out to survive and build ourselves in this new ecosystem of change, because all these processes are going to be attacked by agents and AI. Great power comes great responsibility, right? It was, I think, said by Rousseau, Voltaire, and then Spider-Man. And that is exactly the problem. We really need to see that just because something is powerful and it can do it, should we do it?
You're listening to Data Analytics Chat, where data meets career.
Welcome back to Data Analytics Chat, the podcast where we discuss the world of data, AI, and the careers shaping it. Today, I'm excited to welcome Sundip Gorai, Global Head of Data Science and AI at Global Payments, Fortune 500 company. So in today's episode, we'll explore its exciting career journey and then discuss the data topic on how agentic AI will impact business. Sundip, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Ben. It's a pleasure.
Brilliant. And I'm looking forward to today's topic because it's making a lot of headlines.
Yes, of course, it is making a lot of headlines.
So obviously, firstly, congratulations on your new role.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that obviously starts out well for you. And obviously, they're large in the transaction space. So they do, is it trillions of transactions? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think they are one of the largest transaction processors. Global Payments processes transactions across 227 countries, 4 trillion transactions annually.
Amazing. Interesting work for yourself. So, do you want to just give us a quick introduction to your new role?
Sure. And of course, I will keep it at a very high level at this point in time, but we'll give a fair perspective of what possibly I'll be going to do in this new role. So essentially, my role will be defining and driving the vision of AI and data science for Global Payments, cutting across their various businesses. And as you can understand, a company that processes so many large transactions, it cuts across pretty much everything you can think of: retail, education, parking, banking, anything that cuts across all these transactions, making sense of these transactions, keeping the aspect of regulations in mind, keeping the aspect of social responsibility in mind. So that is one. So monetization of this data set and scaling up, because scaling is going to be a very big thing. Security is going to be a very big thing. So from the value generation, monetization, use case articulation to build up of the teams, defining the AI data science architecture, tools, technology, data sets, and aligning very closely to the data engineering vision, because I think all this finally rests on the data and the data quality based on which AI and data science will happen.
Brilliant. So it sounds you'll be busy for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And so obviously you've had a fascinating career. Obviously you've worked in multiple locations, you've done startup, you've done quality corporate. Do you want to give the listeners explanation of your career journey?
Sure. And by some strange quirk of fate, I would say that I have been fortunate enough to basically embrace the data journey as it has evolved, more or less pretty much from the inception, very close to the inception. The earliest data warehouses started coming up in around 1996, as we know it today. And I embarked on this journey around 1998. So pretty much I have been through the whole journey of evolution. So in the recent past, I was SVP in WNS, which is a company which was started by British Airways, which just got acquired and is in the acquisition processes around with Capgemini. My role cut across multiple verticals, working with CIOs, CDOs, defining, articulating their vision. And as you mentioned, prior to this, I had ventured into building a data company with a Israel-based firm. And I think because of the Israel war, I exited and then took up this role. Prior to that, I had done very similar roles of basically nurturing, incubating data practices in some of the large billion plus organizations, companies like Coforge, companies like Genpact, companies like L&T Infotech, Hexaware. All of these companies are typically range somewhere between a couple of billion to 20 odd $billion. So most of these companies, I have started the data foundation, building the data teams and creating the offerings, solutions, building the partnerships, laying the foundation of multiple architectures, doing data science. And of course, I also was with IBM and Oracle. Before that, with IBM, I was one of the leading players in that Watson space when Watson came out as of the first integrated data science platform. And in Oracle, I was part of the risk analytics team. Had a good fortune of working across 30 odd countries, doing lots and lots of work across banks, insurance, travel, transportation, hospitality, life sciences, advertising, oil and gas, and more.
Brilliant. So quite a journey and broad experience, which I think hopefully adds to your credentials.
My credentials means for education wise, I studied from IIT Kharagpur, which is one of the premium institutions in India. And I did my MBA from IIT Ghaziabad in marketing and finance, which is also in India. And all these across, I have been, the roles that I have played has been the head of data science, head of data engineering, head of data engineering, data science, and AI.
Brilliant. Cool. And how have you found moving countries? Because obviously it's, obviously different. You've come from, you've gone from one side of the world to the other. So how
Very interesting question. Yeah, very interesting question. Of course, if you see that in the early parts of the career, I was very much resident in India, that is around 20 odd years ago. And I used to travel a lot all across, and so I had an enormous embracing of cultures. One time in Africa, one time in Middle East, one time in Latin America, one time in Europe. And it was a boiling cauldron of knowing people, understanding people, and embracing that. So when I moving to the United States was not that hard that way because I had been constantly been in touch with the cultures. And of course, there are over time you learn the subtle nuances of a particular culture and space. So likewise has been settling in America. I am based out of Atlanta, which is a lovely city, and that's where I have been for the last 20 odd years.
Brilliant. No, that's good. I think it does add to your, I think it adds to your life experience when you have done same move. Not as far as I moved from England to Spain. So obviously, when you go to different cultures, I think it does add to you. Obviously learn and you meet new people. I think it adds to yourself.
You moved from England to Spain, and I understand that's a very different but similar experience like me, right? You're embracing different cultures.
Yes, actually. Brilliant. Okay. And so then what were, obviously you get a great successful career today. What's been the sort of defining moments that have changed your career?
Defining, there are various points in time. And I would, again, as I said, I was fortunate when I finished my engineering, that was in 94. I did my industrial engineering and I started as a shop floor industrial engineer with the Blowplast Group, which is the group that I think they were part of Mattel Toys, the company that makes Barbies and others. So as a shop floor engineer, that was a good grounding in understanding manufacturing processes hands-on. And after my MBA, I started with the second largest bank in India, ICICI Bank, and pretty much everything I did, running the branch operations, setting up a branch. So that was a very strong grounding in the services industry. So in early parts of the career, having been hands-on in a manufacturing industry and having been hands-on in a services industry, that was a phenomenal, I think, founding stone for somebody who was going to do analytics in 17 to 20 industries in the rest of his career. Because every time you could go back and feel it, how it is a services business work, how it is a manufacturing business. So that was a defining moment. The second defining moment came in when I was in Oracle, came through an acquisition called Revelius iFlex. We were a risk analytics firm. And that is when I got to see 100 odd banks and financial institutions across the globe. And till that time, I had been working more on the technology side of AI and analytics. But first time I started understanding the business manifestation of analytics. And that was a complete change in my perspective that it is all about business. It is all about actionables. It is all about insights. and technology, tools, algorithms, all these are means to an end. That was the second big defining moment. These were the two major, I would say. And after that, it has more been scaling. These were the main defining moments. And from a challenges perspective, COVID was a very different experience altogether of handling everything.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I think it's obviously key. Obviously, you've come from a technical background and you've had obviously you've got to learn the business side, and then also like obviously you've been fortunate to progress into leadership. You've got to learn the soft skills there as well, haven't you? So I guess it's a massive learning curve for people that obviously want to progress in a similar situation like you.
Yeah.
So what's been the big challenges you faced along the way? Helen.
Yeah, so challenges, I think there were different challenges. If you look at, let's look at the kind of projects which I have done. I'll talk through those challenges first. So one of the biggest challenges when you are in the data space, right from the beginning, is first is the stakeholder buy-in. Okay, that is the most important thing. Whatever projects which you are going to do for your stakeholders, they are understanding their pains, understanding those games that they are trying to do, and more importantly, unifying them and arriving at a singular vision which everybody agrees to. That is one of the biggest challenges. So understanding the stakeholder intent, bringing them to the common understanding. The second big challenge which happens in most of these projects is the data itself. Now, when I say data itself, one is the data science related data problem, and second is the data engineering related data problem. So let me explain what is the difference. In a data science related data engineering problem, because end of the day, whatever you are doing, if your data science algorithms are running, or if your deep learning and AI algorithms are running, they require relevant data sets. And without getting too technical, or what is called the feature vectors, and the relevant feature vectors need to be understood, identified. So that is a very critical challenge, and finding that, creating the right feature vectors for data science project, and getting it at the right place, right time, with right volume, right velocity. That is one kind of an big challenge which happened in data science projects. The second challenge which happens in data science project is the model drifts which happen over time, right? So let me give a analogy of this. For example, you are served one kind of a pizza and you like it and you like it and you like it every day. But one fine day you don't start liking the taste of that pizza. And similarly, in a data science model, what happens is that the end intention and the outcome of the data science model may change over time. So that drift has to be understood. Secondly, sometimes what happens is one fine day you are liking certain toppings on the pizza, and after a few days you want some new toppings in the pizza. Similarly, in a data science project, what happens is that the data inputs which are coming in, they may drift over time. So you may have to then essentially revalidate and recalibrate your models from that particular perspective. So the third thing is the velocity of the data. Sometimes you have been building models on static data. Now there may be more dynamic models required, dynamic pricing required, dynamic forecasting required. So that again, you may have to re-architect the whole model. And secondly, on the data engineering side, the bigger challenges are common. As we say, it is a volume related problem. Volume has been increasing over time. The architecture changes over time. It's a velocity related problem that you are having more. I think now you have more streaming data and you need use cases around streaming data. Variety is a problem. Earlier it was simple structured data. Now you have structured and unstructured data. And likewise, from data warehouses, we have moved to data lake house, to delta lakes, and all kinds of new architectures are coming in. So those were some of the challenges which we had to handle. And as the space has been evolving, the demands in the marketplace have been evolving, the tools in the marketplace likewise have been evolving. And all this therefore means then the people like me and others who have been associated in the space have to essentially realign our thinking, design, vision for people, process, and technology to the changing times.
And yeah, and I'm glad you also had any challenges, because I think it's not so much happening in the field, isn't there? That you've got continuously adapt, haven't you? And move. You've got to keep learning. Like it's just the way it is now.
Yes, absolutely.
Just on yourself. So have you always wanted to be a leader? Obviously, after you're fresh out of your studies, university, do you always want to be a leader, or Is that sort of over time you've gained confidence and experience, and it's just the way it's gone?
Okay, so a small correction. I probably never wanted to be a leader. Let me just clarify that. What I wanted to do was do good work. Okay, that has been the driving factor my journey. Wherever I have been, wherever I have changed jobs, it is throughout. I think I would 80% of the time it is the content and the nature of the job that has magnetized to me to change a job, not any other primary reason, but one of the main reasons I wanted to do something new in this space. When I wanted to build a data startup, that was the intent. When I joined IBM, because it was one of the forefront of the big data. When I joined each of the companies that I have worked to build a data practice. When I joined Oracle, it was to learn banking analytics and Merit. So I would say my driving factor has been learning always. Driving factor has been to learn new things in the evolving space. And that way, I think destiny has been fortunate that I have grown along the process. That said, leadership, as you move over time and as you take new responsibilities, you learn the skills of leadership and you breed the skills of leadership. And being a leader is not a very easy job in a space like data and data science and AI, because the resources are sharp, intelligent, and people have their own desires, intents, and very smart people get impatient fast, and then you have to take care of them at every point in time. Like in IBM, when my team was like around, I remember around 40 odd people, many of them were PhDs, and some of them were from Stanford, MIT. So you need to take care of people to ensure that they feel valued, respected, and essentially are doing good things. So leadership comes with its own set of, I think, greatness, joy, and challenges as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Leadership is obviously you've come from, you've been a technical expert, and then you've got to deal with people when everyone is different. Everyone's in their own little bubble. Everyone's going through their journey. So it's, and also you've got obviously managing that is, yeah, it's obviously there's lots to do, isn't there? And also you've got to continuous keep up with the learning, especially in the AI field now. It's just, yeah, every new week it seems like there's something new happening.
Absolutely.
So what skills or attributes do you think it's helped progress you into like leadership?
So I would define the skills primarily. One is the different layers, I would call it. One layer is first on the pure or core content of the job is, of course, having strong business skills, understanding business acumen of whatever I have been doing. That has been my strongest differentiator. Even today in the marketplace, if you see that there are just a handful of people who straddle both the business and the technology side of data science, data engineering together. Very few people who understand both very well. You will have people better than me in understanding business. You will have people better than me in understanding technology and data science. But there are very few people in the market who have the combination of skills with business and technology. So that is one of the driving forces of leadership. Second driving force of leadership is, of course, you need to hone your communication skills, storytelling skills. Very important that building great data science models, but if you're not able to communicate in a simple layman's language, then the adoption is not going to happen. The senior leadership is not going to buy in what you're going to say. The third leadership skill is, of course, being courageous, straightforward, ethical. These are some of the very important aspects of life. And most of that value system, I believe, has come from my meditation practice. I'm a deep meditator, and that has really helped me imbibe those aspects of the practice. And last but most important is decision-making ability in the time frame of ambiguity, right? Again and again, you will be coming across crossroads where you need to take a decision. And the one of the simplest metrics which I use to take a decision is that speed over quality or quality over speed. Okay, so many times I think the situation you will come again and again in projects, and you're multitasking, and then there is a time pressure for deliverable, and that is the conscious thing that one needs to think, that is quality is more important than quantity at this point in time, or quantity is more important than quality, given what the stakeholder wants, given all other parameters. And that is one of the thing which comes with practice over time, that what do you need to choose, quality or quantity or quality.
Brilliant. And then I do like what you mentioned about meditation, because I think it's key, like adding that to your daily routine, like whether it's doing exercise, reading, meditation, going for like just I think it does add to your focus, because obviously we are in a crazy world where things 100 miles per hour. I think sometimes you just do need to slow down and just have a step away.
Yeah, I think, see, that is something, of course, I wouldn't say that I'm a pro. I have been trying for now last 20 years doing various kinds of meditation. Now I follow a specific form of meditation technique known as Vipassana. You can check the website dhamma.org, which is there in 200 countries, a Buddhist form of meditation, very simple breath observation meditation. But for in general, anybody else, once an hour, if you can take a 30-second break and just observe your breath, the extremities of your breath as it goes in and goes out, without changing it, that will do an enormous change in the stress levels of people. I have seen it myself. Last thing you go before going to sleep, 1 minute you observe your breath without changing it. First thing you do is when you wake up, 1 minute you observe your breath. You will see the change in yourself, and stress management becomes very easy. And this is a whole topic in itself, the intersection and understanding of AI and meditation. Maybe some other day I will talk and have a detailed conversation. How is AI related to meditation? How meditation? I've done a lot of thinking on this space, and I think a whole podcast is needed. We'll cover that sometime else.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned about Vipassana, because obviously they do the 10-day retreat, but again, that's that's a different topic altogether. But I think it's fascinating.
I have done five times of the 10-day retreat, so it is really helpful.
Oh, amazing. Well done. And then obviously, cool. All right, getting this sidetracked there, but and also like how you mentioned you got the balance of business and the technical. I'll call it the glue. I think businesses do struggle to, especially leaders, having that blend of skills. I think it's a massive strength to have in today's market.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Okay, brilliant. What advice would you give to someone aspiring to become a top leader like yourself?
See, first and foremost, in the data space, that one, I personally believe that one has to be a voracious learner. If in this space, the space is changing so fast, right? I think obsolescence is the only constant in this marketplace, right? So I think somebody who was knowing something in the data space 10 years ago and has not imbibed anything new is a dinosaur in this space today. Somebody who had imbibed even something 3 years ago and has stopped learning is also a dinosaur today, because everything that came out in the last 3 years, generative AI, agentic AI, and all the bunch of stuff which has been coming, the large language models, was not there 3 to 4 years ago. So I think learning is an essential thing. But at the same time, I think information is out to get us. That is the way I put it. Philip K. Dick is one of the greatest science fiction writers of all times, who has written movies like Blade Runner, Next, Minority Report, and many more things. He mentioned this word kipple. I think that was maybe some 60 odd years ago. Kipple is all the useless junk which is trying to probably get into our head. And it is not we trying to get information, information is trying to get us. So we have to be very careful of what we want to take in and what we don't want to take in. Okay. What is the grain from the chaff? That clarity should be very much there, because so much of information bombardment is there. So navigating through the space and distilling the grain from the chaff, that is a skill in itself.
Definitely. I think there's so much to even things like, I myself, when I do my deep work, I close my inbox, because if you're constantly getting an email and looking at it, it's like stop-start. I think you just need like focus and find ways that can help you obviously just get ahead.
Yes.
And so, okay, cool. Something we need to discuss today then is around how agentic AI will impact business. So I guess to start off with, how would you go approaching AI strategy?
Yeah, very good question. I think, see, today, first of all, AI means different things to different people. In my mind, the simplest explanation of understanding of AI is effectively anything that does sensorial acceleration. When you say sensorial acceleration, what I mean is, if you see, can you see, use a technology device to see better? can you hear? Can you use a technology device to hear better? If you speak, can you do a technology device to speak better, smell better, touch better, or translate one sensorial activity to another? Let's say converting speech to text or some other form to some another form. That is the primary driver of the AI technologies. Now, how they enable various business processes or day-to-day living processes, that is what we call the AI adoption. Now, in the business world, in the enterprise world, if you see there is always a mixture. Earlier, I think data science was seen as a different world. AI was seen as a different world. Today, what was data science is called AI. What is AI is called data science. So the way I put it is, there is those use cases which require pure AI skills like speech, text, vision, mainly deep learning related kind of skills. That is one kind of an business AI. The other side of AI is the technical AI, which is things like AI ops or infrastructure observability or ML ops and stuff like that. Then there are business use cases or the data science use cases, which are also today getting called as AI. And of course, later on comes the generative AI and agentic AI, which are new things in the space. Now, as far as AI adoption is concerned, my approach has been very simple, and it is so simple. Anybody, it may appear as sheer common sense, but the whole space of AI boils down to this. There are people, there are personas in companies who have pains, who want certain gains. That's point number one. Those personas then need outcomes, is point number two. Outcomes are of two types, right? Let's call it 2.1, which is people want to increase revenue, reduce cost, or increase profits. Or 2.2, outcomes could be related to speed to market, innovations, regulations, more qualitative in nature. So you have personas, you have outcomes, then you have the business itself, which is three. That business could be a bank looks at credit, a bank looks at finance, a bank looks at customer acquisition, a bank looks at something. Similarly, airlines looks at cargo, airlines looks at passengers, airlines looks at bookings, airlines looks at flights, okay, so on and so forth. So the third, so personas, outcomes, and the business in which that AI or analytics will be applied. Then comes fourth is how will you solve it? Or what I simply use the word analytics. Now, what is analytics here? It could be just paper and a pencil. You have a problem, the persona has a pain, it is related to a business, you have a paper and a pencil and you solve it. Or you need an Excel sheet and you solve it. Or you have slightly higher descriptive analytics like Power BI, Tableau, and other tools you are using to solve it. Then you have predictive analytics like machine learning, data science, which you are using. Then you have cognitive analytics, which you're using deep learning, neural networks, and all that to solve it. Then you have more generative new stuff in nature, large language models to solve it. Then you have agentic, which is more agentic solutions where collaboration and all that is happening to solve it. Then you have diagnostic, right? More streaming data to solve it, right? And then finally, you have prescriptive, which is more using advanced topics like operations research and simulation, digital twins. So I started with persona, then I went to outcome, then I went to business, then I went to analytics. Now, after this fourth layer, the fifth layer is architecture. Now, how are you going to solve this? That architecture could be, again, very simple database like an Excel sheet. It could be other databases. It could be data warehouse. It could be a data lake, and a host of problems that comes with it: data quality, master data, metadata, and so on and so forth. Then from this layer, fifth layer architecture, the sixth layer is tools. So far, you see, I've not talked of any tools. I've talked about persona. I've talked about outcomes. I've talked about business. I have talked about architecture. I've talked about analytics, but no tools. Then this is where you decide what tools will do it. Do I need Google? Do I need Microsoft? Do I need this and that to solve it? And the seventh layer is essentially the people and the execution team. So your whole AI strategy is just this. There is nothing outside this. The world may change in 20, 25 years. I've been doing this. This has never changed. This is a constant. Okay. So AI strategy thinking and the Lego blocks of AI strategy, one Lego block may increase or augment, but the layers are going, 7 layers are going to remain. Each layer may go through a little bit of a change here and there. But even after 20 years, if you and I are having this podcast, we'll have a similar conversation.
Yeah, no, fascinating to hear what you say, because it's funny how so many people, businesses, they look at tools in the
Yes.
early in the strategy when it's Yeah, again, like you touched it on the head, you need to look at the business outcomes. And also, seen is it like AI, you need to embed within the business, isn't it? Because it's so many different components to the business. You need to have that embedded before you even look
Yeah,
at it.
I think the sad aspect of the marketplace and the social media is the obsession with tools, technologies, architecture means, but why are we doing it? What is the need of it? Who will get value out of it? Those fundamental questions are not getting asked, or sometimes I really feel that why are these not being asked early on in the stages? I have seen very mature and senior leaders. Maybe people have are so obsessed with what they have been doing, they want to start with what they have been doing all their life. And that is why I have been seeing this obsession with technology, methods, maths, algorithms. All that is important, but they are they are cogs in the wheel. They are not the wheels itself.
Yeah. Again, like I said, the fascination with the new shiny toys on the market, want to be the talk of town. But yeah, I guess again, you need to just at the end of the day, business is business. You need to have the fundamentals, business basics. What are you trying to? What's your problem? And then go from there. Really.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Does agentic AI mean for business today?
Yeah, see, agentic AI, again, agentic AI also, again, a lot of confusion is there. What exactly is agentic AI? Different people have different meanings. For me, the way I put it is that agentic AI is like decisions are being taken where a series of actors are in play. The series aspect is very important. It's like a relay race, one guy handing the baton to the next guy, and so forth. So, where the problem is elevates to multi players, then that essentially is a proper agentic AI use case. Not that a single agent can't be a agent use case. The most important aspect of the agent is one is autonomy, independence to take a decision. Second is cognition, okay, ability to use various kinds of data science or cognitive techniques to take a decision. Third is from an agent perspective, there has to be a goal orientation, either of a single agent or multi agents together. They need to be solving for a particular goal. The fourth thing is that individually and collectively, there has to be learning, and whatever they are doing, they learn from the mistakes. In the next cycle, they're able to retain that learning, have a memory, and improve upon that mistake in the next cycle. Now, there have been workflow tools before this. If you see, the low code, no code tools were there, but the difference was they didn't have those cognitive elements. They didn't have the large language models embedded in them. They didn't have search in them. So these newer aspects which has come in has changing the whole manifestation of the use case completely from the past. So I think this is going to be a big thing. And if you see, I keep writing about agentic AI use cases, my LinkedIn, and I know time, we cannot get into details, but there are use cases in insurance, use cases in banking, use cases in HR. Every business aspect is going to get touched with agentic AI. And the way we are going to see it is that there is the cost over the long run is going to come down, productivity is going to go up. And then essentially there are the core processes agents which a business is running, and the non-core processes that could be related to HR or finance, which are vital to the organization's survival, but not core of the business. Airlines has a core business and a bank has a core business, but common functions like HR. Number two is finance. Number three is procurement. Number four is contact center. Number five is sales and marketing. These five functions are there in almost all organizations. And these functions are today the way traditionally they are BPO companies and BPM companies, they're outsourced and all that. So all that is going through a massive change and upheaval, and how essentially all this is going to function, because like it or not, that's coming, and we need to adapt and change to the changing times and figure out to survive and build ourselves in this new ecosystem of change, because all these processes are going to be attacked by agents and AI.
And you see any particular industries that are really have seen a lot the biggest adoption of AI or agentic AI? Sorry.
Yeah, see, wherever there is a cross collaboration, wherever there is ambiguity of decision making, those places will go through a massive disruption. Okay. If let's take healthcare and life sciences, right? If you see, and especially healthcare in Americas, if you see healthcare, there are so many actors, so many players, so many decision making. So many traditional technologies, even if you go to a doctor's office, people are still relying on faxes today. Okay. And email is not getting used. There are so many new machines getting adopted. Then there is integration of the payers who are the insurance companies. They are the providers, which are the hospitals. Then there is the pharma, which is providing. There is the patient. Okay. So the actors are various, the needs are various, the decision making is various. So this is just one example. Likewise, in the banking and the payment industry, for example, the payment industry, so many new players are there. Traditional big players have been there, like Visa, MasterCard on one side, Global Payments on another side. And then there are newer players like Stripe, and then there are Clover, Square, they are coming in. So the way the transaction is getting processed, that itself is going through a massive change. And the whole, if the value chain is changing, which naturally means that every point where the value chain operating model of the industry is changing, there is an opportunity for that to be disrupted by AI and agentic AI and data science.
Cool. From your experience, the people that are adopting, genetic AI, is it making impacts? Because obviously it's a massive change, isn't it, for business? Are they
Very
making
good
impact, or
question.
is it still like a learning curve for these companies?
Yes, first and foremost is majority of, I think when the generative AI hype started, I would say somewhere around 2023. Now we are in 2025, 2.5 years, 3 years at best, I can call it. So 3 years, the generative AI hype was there. And then I think 1 year odd onwards, the agentic 1.5 years, the agentic thing has taken shape, right? I would say 1 year, not more than 1 year, the agentic noise. And the generative AI noise has been there for 3 years, and before it got replaced by the agentic AI noise. The generative AI started again, people, large language models, they can answer questions. Then there were fear interpretations coming in. Hey, the answers are not accurate. Explainability is a problem. It is a black box and this and that. So bottom line is a lot of experimentations happened. Okay. Again, people bought, and I'll tell you from my experience in 2012, when the big data ecosystems coming in, everybody jumped, big servers were bought, this data, that data, but people did not know what to do because the business use cases were not there. Eventually, those big boxes gathered dust. Similar aspects happen with generative AI. Large number of investments happened. People have not got value out of it. Similar way, the agentic AI will happen, that large money will flow into this. Okay. But hopefully people will be cautious, because at this time I'm seeing more experimentations happening, more pointed use cases happening. I'm yet to see a large scale multi-agent ecosystem getting really adopted, which is changing an industry. At least I am not aware of. Probably it is going to happen because there are so many moving parts, so many uncertainties, whether the large language model, the number of technologies hitting the market, the lack of resources who know the technology well, lack of credible partners because their tools are evolving. So I think we are at the way I call it the Cambrian explosion, right? There was a point in time in our evolution 5,000 years ago when suddenly all the species seem to have emerged overnight, right? From monkey to man, and in between there were suddenly millions and millions of species which emerged overnight. We are at that Cambrian explosion of technologies where hundreds of new tools, technologies, everybody is crowding and jostling for the space. But it will be a survival of the fittest like evolution. Only a few will survive, most will go away. The bigger chunk of the market will still be controlled by the hyperscalers like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon, and one or two big players. There could be a Salesforce in between. And now there are other players, Databricks, Snowflake. These players are very important today, but probably, and I don't know, I'm saying probably, they could be consumed in the bigger ecosystem of bigger players. Eventually, there will be large players are going to have major say in this market, and there will be niche players who bring a clear differentiated mode for themselves. They will survive.
Okay. And then what would you say is the big risks and challenges in deploying AI, agentic AI?
Yeah. So if you see the biggest, there are 4 or 5 things. Okay. The first risk is, of course, the, I would say one of the areas is accuracy. I'll come to the others. First is accuracy, right? Is the model, what the model is saying, is it accurate? You ask ChatGPT a question, you get an answer. Okay. It looks correct. can you measure and say, is it 100% correct? Is it 90% correct? There are various means, techniques, metrics to do that, but it is still not confirmed, and a lot is going on in that space. Second is explainability. Okay, today, whatever is coming out, suppose it's not the way a magician puts a handkerchief in a black hat and pulls out a rabbit. What happened in between, nobody knows, right? It is that black box, right? Most of the deep learning models, you give input, you give output, and after a point in time, you give new output, it matches and gives you answer like the old output. But what happened in between, it's like a secret sauce. It's like an alchemist. It's like a sorcerer. It's like black magic. That's something is explainability. There are models coming in to explain why things are happening the way things are happening, or why a neural network is working in a certain way. That's the second important challenge of adoption. The third important challenge is ethics and social responsibility, because many models, I think, if with great power comes great responsibility, right? It was, I think, said by Rousseau, Voltaire, and then Spider-Man, right? And that is exactly the problem. We really need to see that just because something is powerful and it can do it, should we do it? Will it do for the greater good or not? That is the third important aspect, is social responsibility. Then social responsibility and ethics. Fourth important aspect is scalability, right? The model may work in an experimentation layer, but when you go ahead and deploy it in a large scale, okay, with terabyte, petabyte, zettabyte scale of data, is the model going to perform the same way? Okay. And just as if you see that if you draw a tiny straight line, and if you keep extending it, you could make it into a circle. But when you are looking at a circle as a circle, when you look at a small segment of that circle, it's a flat line, just like we are standing on this earth, which is flat, but actually the earth is round. What I'm trying to say, that when you change the scale from small to the big, then the whole perspective changes. And that is why what Newton had said about physics and what Einstein said about physics, when you start looking at the universe on a large scale, the whole laws of Newtonian physics probably changed or got extended, if I may say it. Exactly when the scale changes, then the problems are of a totally different kind. And similarly, in the data science space, when you solve a problem on an Excel sheet, then you solve a problem on Python on a desktop, and then you solve the problem on a reasonable size server, and then you are using GPU, TPU, and all that to scale up in multi-country, multi-location, large number of customers, the game changes completely. So that's the other part of the problem, is scale. So to summarize, I mentioned about explainability, I mentioned about accuracy, I mentioned about ethics, I mentioned about responsibility, I mentioned about scalability, and last but not least, security. Security of systems and compliance with regulations, that is also brings a challenge, just because something can do well and may not be meeting the needs of the regulators.
No, that's good. And I love the challenges you mentioned, because, yeah, like for anything, as soon as you change the process of business, whatever you're doing, obviously, yeah, there will be positives, but also then you're changing the goalpost. So there's going to be more challenges come up, isn't there? It's that constant evolution. I guess, like, you're constantly chasing your tail, aren't you, really? Like, if things change, you've got to keep adapting.
Absolutely.
With Agentic AI, then, how's it reshaping work and the employee roles?
Very profound question. Yeah, employee roles, jobs, nobody has the answer to this. And there is fear, there is trepidation, whether all the jobs will go away. And I have a slightly different take, and I'll give you 2-3 very interesting examples here. Now, and people have to understand, because I have always seen history as a place where all the answers are hidden. Almost every answer that you're looking for in life is hidden in history. I have a deep passion for understanding the history of inventions, and that there lies most of the answers. A few examples I'll give you. Let's look at aluminum. Aluminum today is all over, ubiquitous, all over the place. A common element and a utensil of aluminum is cheap. In poorer countries, beggars use bowls for aluminum bowls. You'll be surprised to hear that around 200 years ago, during the Louis the 14th and 15th, aluminum used to be very precious. Silver used to be cheaper. Okay. Because it was very hard to make aluminum. Now, one fine day, two gentlemen found out the electrolysis process, which aluminum could be created dirt cheap. Okay. And the game changed. The whole industry changed. And now aluminum, instead of making rich people's utensils, it became a poor person's utensils. There were a large number of people who were manufacturing aluminum, and the specialists who were actually building aluminum earlier went out of business because now anybody could make it very fast, very cheap. But what happened as a result was that many new things started coming up. Today, Wright brothers use aluminum in their plane. Then there were soda cans getting made of aluminum. Every aspect of life got infiltrated with aluminum, and thereby the number of jobs exploded in that particular space. AI will go through a similar evolution, right? First, I think it was a bunch of small people building geeky models and all that. Today, that is getting democratized with large language models. Today, coding is getting democratized with large language models. You can probably write plain, simple English, and you'll be able to build the models. And who knows, tomorrow, all the large contact centers operating out of countries like Philippines and others, who they may be outsourcing all technical work because coding is becomes a plain English skill. So a large number of democratization would happen. The people who are doing it and the people who will be doing it in the future are going to be different. Okay. And the number of jobs are going to increase. That is point one. Similarly, if you look where there were horse carts thronging the cities of New York before, I think, 1928, and 5 years later, from horse carts, everything moved to, I think, Model T carts after Ford's assembly line came in. So imagine the people who are building those horse carts, they had one kind of skills. Now, to build a car required different kind of skills. Okay. Imagine the people who were essentially probably selling peanuts or other accessories at the stations where the horse cart stopped. And imagine the people who are essentially selling newspapers and other. So what I'm trying to say, that skills will change as the underlying need fulfilling invention is going to change. And if that need fulfilling invention is cheaper, faster, and better, thereby all the jobs associated with it is also going to change. Now, you may ask the question, hey, all that is good and great, but what if earlier 50 people are doing the job and now a machine is doing the job and only one machine is doing the job? What about the 49 people who lost their job? They will never get a job. Valid question. So one way of looking at it, and the assumption is that, okay, the job market is going to expand. But what if the job market shrinks in totality? Now, here I have a point of view, and I have not seen anything written on the internet on this yet. I've written a couple of articles on LinkedIn. Is that end of the day, if everybody loses all the jobs, then who is there to buy? There is nobody there to buy. And if there is nobody there to buy, then a robot has no incentive for automating anything. So there will always be a balance. There will be job losses. There will be jobs created. And the job losses cannot be so massive and so emphatic that it destroyed the consumer base such that the robots have no incentive of producing anything. So it is going to be rough. It is going to be very different, and new economic models, probably new government styles, who knows, probably there could be basic economic income and thing like that. I am not a soothsayer, but I think a lot of changes are going to happen. In the short term, it is going to be very uncertain. And probably let's hope that in the long term, it is going to be very promising for all of us.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think there's going to be a lot of change. But I think one example, I remember I spoke to one leader, and when the Excel come in, everyone thought the accountancy jobs would be gone. But 20 plus years still, there's pretty more accountants nowadays than ever. I think roles will get more diverse, skill sets will get just tweaked, and roles will change. It's just constant evolution. Things just will change, and obviously people will adapt, learn new skills, and yeah, I think it's obviously going to be fascinating. Obviously, it would be a rookie part, but like I said, there's always going to be. You can't just all jobs go. I just can't see that. It's just going to be an evolution and different ways of working in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Fully agree with you. I think nobody knows what is going to happen. I think we can just do a guessing game at this point in time.
Brilliant. What would be your view on the future of business then? AI, Agentic AI, and I guess even the effects on mankind.
Yeah, so effects on mankind is something, as I said, we will probably sometime discuss about meditation at certain point in time. But if you see this whole process, what differentiate us from a robot is our sensorial system, right? Every aspect of our life, every aspect, even the smallest aspect of our life is driven by two fundamental instincts of survival and procreation, right? So if you really see that when any species which is out there, okay, what are the two drivers? It gets up in the morning that I need to survive, and thereby I need to procreate, and I need to nourish myself, and thereby I need to eat. Okay. Or in a very raw sense, you can say that food and sex are the primary drivers for the survival of any, from the ant to the dinosaur to human beings, are two of the primary drivers of its existence. And what is coded, where this codification is there in that animal, inside probably its DNA, that you need to get up in the morning and you need to nourish yourself, and therefore you need food, and you need to ensure that you survive, or if you can't survive, you procreate so that your next generation survives. Food and sex. Now, as time have passed, as human being and evolution has evolved, it has taken a different form, right? This has taken the shape of greed and fear. So again, the survival, two aspects of every aspect of life, therefore, it gets driven. But underlying construct is the same, right? That I want to either procreate or I want to nourish myself. So greed and fear are the drivers. Again, who is driving the greed and the fear? Your sensorial system of that animal. Now, come a little further. How does this greed and fear get fueled? Through your senses, right? You hear something, you get angry, you see something and you want it. So your life is a constant series of this fear and greed, or what we call a craving and aversion, craving and aversion. I want this, or I don't want this, I don't want this. And which is eventually at a higher level gets manifested as happiness and sadness. Okay. Now, why am I saying all this? All throughout whatever I have spoken, if you see the underlying thing in the animal that is making that happen, it's bundle of sensorial nerves. Now look at a robot, it doesn't have these sensorial nerves. Okay. It is making a decision making. I need to do this, I need to run this algorithm, run this, do that, whatever, as it is programmed to be done, whatever his master has programmed it to do. And why this becomes very important is that in the long run, the robots are probably going to serve us. And who knows, probably in the long run, there could be means and techniques. Maybe already Elon Musk is experimenting with neural links and trying to embed electrodes into the brain and others. Probably there could be regulators like a thermostat, and every given point in time could control your greed and fear. There could be AI algorithms possibly running inside our head and could be doing the calming effects. Today, what is getting provided by drugs and medicines and alcohol and other kinds of stimulants and others. Probably there could be AI algorithms which could understand. And that's a way, way far off, because today all that we are doing in the AI data science space I would say that in the enterprise, at least, trying to do things. Of course, there are things happening on the consumer behavior and things happening on the neuroscience space for healthcare and others. When these two merge, I think we will have a totally new earth, totally new way of looking at mankind. And we just hope that it becomes really grand and a beautiful place, because if it goes the other side, probably the algorithmic forces are taken over by forces of war, taken over by forces of criminal. So we will have that choice, and we will have, as in Matrix, if you see there, are we choosing the red pill or are we choosing the blue pill? That is going to be the defining moment of the future. The responsibility lies in our hand. The choices that we make, not just for ourselves, our future generations, and mankind as a whole. And probably, I think, as always, there is a regulatory system, a bigger force in the universe which creates the equilibrium and creates the planets and create the solar system. Probably some bigger force of AI, even many agents are working, millions and billions of agents are working throughout the universe. Probably they will generate a more cosmic level of consciousness and intelligence to control that humanity as a whole doesn't come to harm. And I think Isaac Asimov, one of the greatest science fiction writers, and I think I would end it on that note, that he created the 3 laws of robotics, right? As to robot will serve a mankind and robot will not harm the man. And finally, whenever in doubt, look at the first rule and second rule. I'm not being able to quote it properly, but something which is rarely spoken is the zeroth laws of robotics, which Asimov had coined. And in that, he said that while robots will optimize, do algorithms, find outcome, do this, do that for man, for betterment, but the zeroth robotics is all of this put together harms humanity as a whole, then that will take precedence over anything else. And probably with a very promising envisioned future, we hope that the zeroth law of robotics will continue to be respected by the robots of today and the robots that are going to come to work.
Brilliant. I love you love your thoughts around that. And yeah, no, it's been great having you on the podcast, Sundip. But yeah, I really like your learning approach first. I think that's good to see. I think it's needed in the industry as well to keep learning. And like I said, an amazing career so far. And yeah, I'll see all the best in your new role. And yeah, thanks for joining on the podcast.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to this podcast. And look forward to speaking with you again on some more specific topics around industry problems and others. And all the best to you. And keep doing the good work that you have started.
You've been listening to Data Analytics Chat Podcast. Subscribe to our channel for more stories and insights in data and career.